And my lunch break guest today is the award-winning writer and broadcaster, Selina Mills. Selina's latest book is called Life Unseen, and she's coming along to the festival to discuss her fascinating history and study of blindness, which was inspired by her own experience of losing her sight. During the event, Selina will be chatting about a world without sight. Is it dark and gloomy and terrifying, or is it just a state of not seeing? Also, really interesting, sort of the perceptions of what it means to be blind over the years. And I'm delighted to welcome Selina onto the programme now. Selina, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
And this is a lovely festival. It's great that you're coming along to talk. Let's start with how your journey began. You were born with no sight in one eye and declining sight in the other.
Oh yes, the joy of sort of half-hearted. I'm sort of straddle blindness and not seeing, and yet I do see something. And I think it got worse. I know it got worse in my 20s and 30s. So now I've got about 10%. But it is funny because it's sort of weird because I'm not completely blind, and yet how do I describe myself? Because I can't function very well without sticks and technology and all the rest of it, canes. So I always feel myself somewhat caught in between different worlds.
I suppose they went, as you know, how you are is especially as you were growing up, is how you were born, and that's just you. But how did people treat you?
Well, when I was younger, I faked it. I think that's the other thing I learned was because you don't know what other people can see, so you only know the world you know. I think I thought, oh, well, this is what most people can see, which was quite limited. So I kind of carried on, and people treated me like a, happy-go-lucky, nice middle-class girl who went to school in Hazelmere. Thank you very much. Just really didn't get treated differently until I started using a white cane, and until I started having special technology for my phone or had to ask for adaptions at work. And then it's very odd, like you literally go from being kind of everyday person to, poor girl, oh dear, and then
Hush
a lot
tones
of,
and being slightly patronised.
Well, yes, the sort of, I call it the sort of tilting of the head. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Oh, Selina, you do so well. And you're like, oh gosh. And then at the same time, you also get, oh, you're amazing. Oh, you're so inspirational. And you're like, no, I'm just getting on with it. I'm just trying to get on with it. So it's an odd, weird world, actually. You just sort of get treated differently. And the weird thing is, I'm still me. I haven't changed,
What's worse, being treated with a tilted head or being classed as some kind of inspirational being?
Oh, there's no competition. They're both equally gruesome. And I think about it when people get older. My mum's now losing her sight a little bit, and she's now beginning to see what happens. And people sort of go, "Do you want the tomato sauce?" And she's like, "I'm okay, thank you very much."
But you can't win. You can't win though, really, because if people don't see that you're blind, then you get treated in the manner that you got treated on a train, where you had to literally remove a false eye and hand it over to someone at the station.
I did.
Tell us about this.
That was horrible. So I was on a train on the way back to London, and I got to King's Cross, and the guard wouldn't let me through unless I showed my disability card. So I found it, got it out, and then he looked at me and said, you people, you think you can get away with using your cards like this, but actually I know that you're faking it. And I looked at him, and I was really polite at the beginning. I was like, oh no, I know it looks like I'm coping very well, but actually I've only got 10% vision, and when it's very bright I can't see anything at all. I'm very, very polite. And there's a huge queue of people behind me as well. So I'm like, oh gosh, I need to just go home, please. And he went on at me, and I had to that's a moment where you just lose your temper and you can't help yourself. And I think is it Prince Charles who goes, it's incandescent. I just became very incandescent, very, very angry, and I whipped out my false eye, and I was like, I'll tell you what's faking it. And practically threw the eye at him, and he looked horrified. He was like, oh, I didn't know. And I was like, yeah, and you kept going, and you decided to make me feel like crap. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Hopefully that will, though, have changed, made him think about the way he deals with other people? Because, being dressed in that fashion, you people, I mean, just horrifying.
I know. Well, I think, and I think in general, disability does get people who are disabled get quite a hard time. So I've had, people on trains. A friend of mine is a wheelchair user, and she was in a spot. There was a big space on a train, and she wheeled on, parked her wheelchair, and this woman came up and she said, "Could you move over, love? Because I need more room." And she was like, "Oh no, it's just my wheelchair spot." And she said, "Why did they give you a special section?" And you just sort of your eyes raised to heaven. You're like, please help me not lose my temper. And I think it's much harder. And I'm like Alice in the Looking Glass. I sort of went through the mirror, and having not ever been aware of disability and blindness and things like that, I literally started losing my sight, and then realised everyone treats you differently. And I never knew that. I didn't understand that. To even, I used to work for the BBC. God bless you all, guys. But I do remember standing in the newsroom, and I was on the debate programme, and somebody turned around and yelled as I shuffled off to find the bathroom, "It's all right, John, Selina's going to the loo." And it's like everybody in the entire newsroom got to hear about me and my loo. And I just thought, have you any idea what you've just done? It was just, there have been some gruesome moments, but there have also been amazing moments too. So I'm not going to say that I haven't, benefited in a way from people's kindness. So.
I'm just trying to conjure up in my head though what this special section would have looked like that you were supposed to be sort of herded off into. Just what would be in there? How would it?
I don't know. Sheep, maybe sheep. I don't know.
It's just, but you've been inspired to sort of take us on a journey through the history of blindness and how people have been treated over the years, and that must have been fascinating to do that research.
It was. I think I was trying to find out why people treated me so weirdly, either the inspiration or the pity of, the tilting head size of pity. And I thought, why is that? We can't have just done that now. And it turns out it's been going on for, centuries, back from the ancient Greeks, actually, and ancient Egyptians. And the Greeks are very good at either making you Tiresias, so like this incredibly knowledgeable inner knowledge person, and Homer, the writer of great poetry. So your blindness gives you talent and compensation. And then it gets a bit nastier. The medieval times is, let's take out your eyes as a punishment, because obviously that's how you get pulled into greed and stealing. You see something and you want it, so we'll just take out your eyes. So okay. And then the 18th century is fascinating because it's all about fixing. It's the rise of doctors and the rise of surgeons, and blindness was a relatively interesting one to fix because there was something called couching, where they stuck a needle in your eye, but like a very hollow one, and sucked out cataracts. So that was in 1728. So you've got all these eras where blindness kind of matched the feeling of each era. And that's what I found fascinating. But I also realized that you can't just give people lists and lists of blind stories. It's just boring. And so I mixed in my memoir with it in order to kind of say, look, this is happening now, and this is where it comes from. And it was really fun to write because I got to kind of understand myself why people are so ignorant sometimes.
And it's loads of people responding to what you're saying here. So Angela in Bexhill has just got in touch. She says, "I'm so enjoying your interview with Selina. I'm in a very similar position, being registered blind, but having some sight, but relying on technology. And I'm really relating to what she's saying here. It's all true." And says, "I'd love to read the book, but it would have to be in some sort of audio format."
It's Audible. It's on audio. It's on. We did it. We really. Actually, the good thing is my publishers were very kind and thoughtful, actually very, very thoughtful. And we've done every version possible. There's a digital, which can be read, like it can be read by a screensaver, a screen reader. There's audible, audio. So you can, on any outlet that sells books, your audio books, it's on there. And you've got me reading for 6.5 hours. If you need a good nighttime sleep, then you can do that. And then there's also, the book is printed in large print. We did that on purpose because we wanted anyone to be able to read it at any point. So I can send you links and stuff like that. Or,
Oh, that's fantastic.
whatever.
So Angela and Beck, so I've preempted this, but I wanted to know before the end of the interview because she's going out to an appointment, so she had to know. So thank you, thank you for clarifying that. I mean,
Angela, come on Monday, come to Petworth Festival and say hello. We can have a good moan together.
Oh, it's a lot of people getting in touch who are really relating to what you're saying. The one that stuck out for me, and this has popped up in a number of interviews you've done, but possibly because it is just so astonishing. And this was the Paris entertainment where blind men were armed with sticks and put in a pen with a pig, and if they killed the animal, they could keep it. I mean, we're pretty gruesome with some of the entertainment, television, sort of reality TV, but it doesn't get much worse than that.
No. Pretty gruesome. Although there's a parallel story. So the reason I found that out was I was sitting one Sunday afternoon or something watching, there's a talk show host called Ellen, and she had a game on her show, and this is like 3 years ago, so not so far long ago, where her guest had to wear blindfolds, and the 12 guests on the stage and they were given, in the middle of the stage was a big box with a prize in it, like a car or a holiday. And the blindfolded guest had to crawl around and find the box. And so I thought, oh, this reminds me of medieval pig bashing. It's just not quite as violent, but it's the pantomime. People find it pantomime and they think it's funny, and it's just not.
Do you think people sort of tilt their heads and either call you sort of special or inspirational because they're almost scared of it happening? Because a lot of people will lose their sight as we age. You know, there are a lot of people. Yeah. I hear from a lot of listeners who have been part of the sighted community, and then something happens, and they find themselves in exactly this position.
Well, I think there's sort of macular degeneration, and there's diabetes, and there's all these things that can happen to you later in life. That means you won't be completely sight loss, but you'll have some sight loss, which means you're kind of peering at things, and there's blobs in your eyes, and there's peripheral vision and all that. And I guess, yes, the answer to your question is yes, I think it is about fear. And I certainly was on that side too. I think you know, we're all taught, and this is from history, we have been taught by history that blindness is something other and over there. And, you know, in the corner, get in your special corner, please. But actually, the reality is you're just you're just living your life. And so many people have eyesight problems, which nobody taps into. Like, they don't understand that everyone's going to have this at some point. And it's going to be your mother, your brother, your auntie, your granny, your sister. And very rarely it happens to younger people. But there are 2 million completely blind people in Britain. And then we don't actually know how many other people are in the middle area like me, which is a sort of, I call it the blurry mists, you know. But it still means I can't function easily. I mean, I've been accused of being drunk. I've been accused of being, having other issues. It's really very sad that it's not mainstream, that we don't grow up thinking, oh yeah, Granny just lost her sight a bit. Oh well, let's make an adaptation. Okay, it's not hard. And I think that's the thing I was trying to get across, which is, we're all human and we're all in this together, whether you like it or not.
And you're at Petworth Literary Festival, and people, it sounds like you really welcome people to come along, get involved in this discussion, and hear more about the book. I think
it's helped. Yeah, it doesn't have to be about the book. It just can be about sight and sight loss and how we handle it and how we're treated. Because I think there's not enough places to say, actually, look, this is how difficult it is. And how can I do this without being, quote, special? And how do we treat each other? How do we talk about it? And I can talk about the book, and I can talk about the history, which is very sexy. I mean, there's some amazing, there's my favorite character is Teresa von Parody. And she is an 18th century blind composer and musician. And she made more money than Mozart. We think they might have had a little affair. And Haydn, and she was kind of a goer, to be honest. Like, she was sort of, having moments with Haydn and other composers, and they all wrote music for her. And she was blind, and she invented things for herself to help herself. Like, when she changed key, she had a band of a ribbon of silk on her lap, and she would just have different kinds of knots to remind herself, oh, that's A minor, that's B minor. And she would just gently move them across her lap over the course of a concert. And I just think we need to remember two things. and that's why I love talking about this, is one, blind people are not, or partially sighted people are not outside of our experience. They're very much part of it. And the reason we treat people differently is because of our history. Our history has said, oh, blind people are over there in the corner. And I want to try and bring them back into the mainstream.
Well, do you know, so many people are wanting to know more about how to get your book and what it's called. And so there we are. So it's called Life Unseen. How do people find it? As you say, available in lots of different formats. Now, I'm presuming that, you know, it's available everywhere, all the usual outlets.
I don't think you're allowed to say, but all the places online that begin with A and end with N, and also bookshops, and it's online. It's I know Audible, Apple, and all the podcasty places have it. So it's really easy. It's Life Unseen, and I think the subtitle is A Story of Blindness.
Oh, do you know, we've loved having you on. Thank you so much, Selina, for joining me on the programme.
I feel very honoured. Thank you so much.
Good luck at the festival. It's wonderful. I love they get some amazing guests at the Petworth Festival. I was looking through these with my producer. We've got to have Selina on, and wasn't she brilliant? Selina Mills' book is called Life Unseen, and she's at Petworth Festival on Monday the 30th of October, Leconfield Hall in Petworth.